Hi guys, it's me Sally. I wanted to share some really cool things I found. I was reading in Job chapter 5 the other day, and I found some really cool stuff. That chapter is actually talking about the rapture, the tribulation, and the millennial kingdom. So Job chapter 5 will start in verse 8. But as for me, I would seek God, and to God I would commit my cause, who does great things and unsearchable, marvelous things without number. Pay attention to these next two verses. This is the rapture. He gives rain on the earth and sends waters on the fields. When does the rain come? Springtime. Now, verse 11 is the rapture. He sets on high those who are lowly, and those who mourn are lifted to safety. Now, I looked at the e-sword, that's what I use, and lifted to safety is definitely a description in the e-sword of the rapture. It's identical. He frustrates, then he goes on to describe the tribulation. Verse 12. He frustrates the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot carry out their plans. He catches the wise in their own craftiness, and their counsel is, the counsel of the cunning comes quickly upon them. They meet with darkness in the daytime, and grope at noontime as in the night. Boy, doesn't that sound like the tribulation. But he saves the needy from the sword, from the mouth of the mighty, and from their hand. So the poor have hope, and injustice shuts her mouth. Behold, happy is the man whom God corrects. Therefore do not despise the chastening of the Almighty. Now, let's stop right there for a minute. That's exactly what he's going to be doing with the Jewish people. He's going to be correcting them, turning their hearts to him. And they have to go through that horrible time, unfortunately. But in the end, they will turn to him. So he's going to be correcting them, chastening them. Verse 18, for he bruises, but he binds up. He wounds, but his hands make whole. That's the same as Hosea chapter 6. And also, that is the same description as the Good Samaritan story. Do you remember I talked about the Good Samaritan story? In that parable, Jesus is the Samaritan, and the man who's wounded are the Jews who go through the tribulation. They will have bruises and wounds, but in the end he will make them whole. And the 2 denarii is 2 days worth of pay. So 2 days is the same as 2,000 years. It's identical. And then when Jesus returns, it says, when I return, I will repay you. I looked up that word repay. It means the same as reward. And when Jesus returns, he says, I have my reward with me. That's the second coming. So that parable is literally talking about the Jews being wounded during the tribulation and his second coming. It's amazing how it all ties together, which goes along with Hosea chapter 6. He shall deliver you in 6 troubles. Do you remember the work week? 6 days you work, the 7th day is rest. So Jesus has to wrap things up by the year 6000. He shall deliver you in 6 troubles. Yes, in 7, no evil shall touch you. Why? Because the 7 is going to be the millennial kingdom, the time of rest. In famine he shall redeem you from death, in war from the power of the sword. You shall be hidden from the scourge of the tongue. So the famine and the war, that's the sealed judgments right there. And you shall be hidden from the scourge of the tongue. And we know that at the midpoint of the trib, the Jews are going to flee to Petra, where they will be hidden from the scourge of the tongue. That goes along with Isaiah chapter 28, verses 15 and 18. It's identical. And you shall not be afraid of destruction when it comes. You shall laugh at destruction and famine. You shall not be afraid of the beasts of the earth. That sounds just like the seal judgments. The famine, the war, the beasts of the earth. Those are seal judgments. Amazing. Now, 23, verses 23 through 27 is a description of the millennial kingdom. For you shall have a covenant with the stones of the field. So when he sets up the millennial kingdom, that's going to be a whole new covenant with them. In the millennial kingdom, they will get their kingdom after all. And the beasts of the field shall be at peace with you. Isaiah talks about during the millennial kingdom where the wolf will lie down with the lamb. They will be at peace with each other. Absolutely amazing. You shall know that your tent is in peace. Oops. When it talks about the tent and your dwelling, those are 2 phrases that are the same as the Feast of Tabernacles, because they would set up tents and dwell in the tents during the Feast of Tabernacles to remember how God delivered them in the past. You shall visit your dwelling and find nothing amiss. You shall also know that your descendants shall be many. They're going to be reproducing during the millennial, and they will have many descendants, and your offspring like the grass of the earth. You shall come to the grave at a full age. That goes along with Isaiah 65, verse 20. As a sheaf of grain ripens in its season, behold, this we have searched out. It is true. Hear it and know it for yourself. Wow. And then I watched this video on the Tolath worm. And when you read Psalm 22 about the crucifixion, Jesus refers to himself. He says, I am a worm. And when you look up the worm, it's actually talking about the Tolath worm. And I'm going to attach a video. Hopefully I can figure this out, but I'm not very technical. So I'm going to try. But I really want you to watch that video. This worm crawls up on the wood, and she gives birth to her babies. And it's once in a lifetime, and then of course she dies. And her offspring have to eat on her flesh until they are mature enough where they come out and go off of the wood. And her blood makes a stain on the wood, a permanent stain. And but remember, I did the study on John chapter 6 when Jesus said, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you shall have no part of me. That's identical to what the Tolath worm does. Her young have to eat her flesh and drink her blood until they're mature enough to climb down off of the wood. And then after she dies and the blood stains the wood, her body turns a waxy white. So the crimson red turns completely white at that point. I mean, it's just amazing how much it sounds exactly Jesus on the cross. And we, his children, partake in his body and his blood so that we can have eternal life. It's absolutely amazing. So I hope that you watch that video, and it'll probably bring tears to your eyes because it's amazing. And then I want you to read Psalm 22 and John chapter 6, and you will see how it all ties together. Absolutely amazing. So I hope that this is a blessing to you, and I hope I can figure out how to attach that video so you can watch it. And I know you'll be blessed with it. I know I was blown away. So that's all I wanted to share. And so with that, I love you guys, and God bless, and we'll see you again soon. Good night.